to the Watchmen Brief. This is R.C. Williams. We're at AmFest 2025, Phoenix, Arizona, at the Phoenix Convention Center on Media Row. Wow, what an incredible event. And speaking of life, we could not find a better guest to talk about life than Kristan Hawkins, Students for Life. How are you, ma'am?
Thanks for having me. I'm very well.
Yeah, welcome to the Watchmen Brief. So if you could just give a 30,000-foot view for our audience that does not know you and your incredible work, and then I want to get into some of the details.
Well, I have the honor of leading Students for Life America and Students for Life Action. We are the pro-life movement's talent pipeline. So we have the honor of serving more than 1,600 Students for Life chapters in all 50 states and college and high school, med and law school campuses, and equipping this generation to be that ends abortion. So changing hearts and minds on their campuses of those most directly targeted by the abortion industry, but then also transforming their campuses to be a place where no woman ever again feels like she has to choose between the life of her child and her education or future career. And so we very much have a twofold goal. We're working with this generation, but we know the significance and importance of it, because if you look the history of social reform movements in our nation and our world, no side wins without having the largest, most well-trained, activated army.
Amen.
And so that's where we find our very unique niche in the pro-life movement, which is building and training up this army.
You know, it is interesting to me, Kristan, Seth Gruber did a wonderful movie called The 1916
That's right.
Project, and talking about the history of Planned Parenthood that people don't understand.
Yeah.
Being someone who is Black, you know, mixed. Margaret Sanger wanted to kill me before I ever got here. And so I posed that way because I want to talk to you about Gen Z. So Braden Sorbo was on the show yesterday. And it seems like the idea of abortion has become so normalized in society. It is like they are trying to get so far ahead of the future generations to eliminate us all. You're on the ground. You deal with this on a regular basis. What is the feeling from young people when they encounter you and what you guys do?
It's really interesting, and it's changed. When I launched Students for Life 20 years ago, I know I look a lot younger, but you know, that was Gen Y. That was the snowflake generation, right? Gen Z is much different, much more direct. I actually enjoy Gen Z way more than Gen Y, and I'm seeing that as an elder millennial. But I think it's definitely changed. We've definitely seen, and I spoke about this last night on the main stage, about how more young men now than young women, I would say, are pro-life. In fact, when you ask young men what their biggest marker of success is, conservative young men say it's having children more than women. And so we've definitely seen culture begin to shift. More young people being willing to call out abortion for what it is, human sacrifice, child sacrifice. But you still fundamentally have this problem of 50 plus years now of the feminist movement, the second wave of feminism. I'm not tarnishing the first wave of feminists. Great Christian ladies. They led the temperance movement and for the right to vote. Suffrage, right? But the second wave of feminism was very strategic. They wanted to end the family, the nuclear family. One of their biggest enemies, they said, was the Catholic Church, attacking the church because the church was building up the family. And so now we have 50 years of young women being fed these lies. And so when I'm talking to young women on campus, I'm often asking them why they've fallen victim and fallen for the lies of the abortion industry, that they need abortion in order to be empowered. Because it's really, abortion is the opposite of empowerment. It tells women that they can't. Planned Parenthood tells women, you're not strong enough to be pregnant and finish your degree, you know, have a child and achieve your career goals, right? They always tell them no. But we in the pro-life movement are saying, yes, you can. We believe in you. It's not going to be easy. It might not be ideal, but we will walk with you and seek social justice, real justice with you in a way that doesn't kill your child. Right. And it empowers you. So when I'm talking to young women, because often they'll come up and, you know, they've got the antiquated 1970s talking points of it's a clump of cells, and they'll try to spout those off. But when you get to have a logical, rational, calm conversation with them, I'm always going back to, who told you you had to choose abortion? Who told you these lies? And then I'm always going back to, why does your life have value? That's something that we used to see this on campuses pre-COVID, just in Oregon and Washington, the really spiritually dark places. we would see kind of conversations for people saying, well, I don't think my life has any value. But it wasn't widespread, but something changed for the worse in COVID. I mean, a lot of things change, but now it is pervasive on college campuses that in every conversation I have with pro-choice students who are there to debate me, right? When I say, well, let's back up, let's stop talking about a child who is going to be temporarily inconvenient to you or that you may not have any relationship with yet, feel a relationship with yet. Let's talk about you. Does your life have value? What gives your life meaning? Why can't I kill you? Beyond the laws, what would be wrong if I stabbed you and shot you? Like, why can't I do that? Problem is, they can't answer that question.
Yeah.
And when you have, and I think that's the bigger problem that we see with Gen Z. Gen Y, all of us went to church. Our grandparents forced us to go to church and we spent the night with them, right? Our parents signed us up for vacation Bible school for a free week of babysitting. Even if our parents weren't active churchgoers, we had exposure and we understood the basic concepts of the gospel story.
Right.
This is a generation, Gen Z is the least church generation in American history. For the first time ever, Pew Research has found that this is the first generation that under 50% identify as Christians. Not even if they actually understand all the tenets of Christianity or living out the life of a Christian. Under 50% are identifying as Christian.
Wow.
And so that's why you've seen in the wake of the assassination of Charlie, you've seen this incredible moment, you know, and a lot of people are saying, is this a revival? Is this going to spark revival? And God, I hope and pray that is so. But we have a really long road ahead of us.
Right.
Because they have to understand who made them, why they made them, why their life has value and meaning before we're even going to be able to change their minds on why another inconvenient human's life has value and meaning. And that's new. That is something that most of my colleagues and peers in the pro-life movement who are older than me, who a lot of them serve in Washington, D.C., they don't have the privilege that I do of going on college campuses and having these conversations. It's almost even unfathomable for people over 50, I would say, to even understand this mindset that we're now in this post-Christian culture. But it is the biggest challenge we face.
You know, Kristan, it's funny because when people ask me to do benedictions or opens, one of the things I do is I focus on Genesis and those verses, because until you understand who you are and who you belong to, none of this is going to make sense to you.
Sure.
And it so bears out, I think, generationally. The older generations need to hear it too, to be reminded. And one of the things that we encourage them to do is you're going to have to get real serious about engaging with the younger generations, because you come to the table saying they're lazy and they're this and they're whatever, but in reality, it's the opposite. And I challenge them and I say, do you want to be the generation that cuts off the knowledge transfer that's necessary for these young people to remember these things? And much like you said with the young folks that can't answer the question, the older folks can't answer that question for me. But it convicts them. You see that moment in their spirit where they're like, I didn't know that I didn't know, and I didn't realize what I was doing. And whoever it hits, it hits. But I think this is so important that we continue to call out the part of how many are unchurched, right? Or just agnostic.
Yeah.
And why that matters and why the work that you guys do is so important. So on that, you've been on the main stage here. Talk to me about AmFest, Charlie, the whole thing with Turning Point and how it impacts campuses and the work that you do.
Well, I mean, Charlie, when I met Charlie right after he launched Turning Point, and we've known each other. We knew each other for a very long time, and I was proud to call him a friend. And Erica, I've actually known longer. When Charlie started Turning Point, I would say it was very secular focused, very kind of conservative, fiscal, foreign policy focused. But as Charlie grew in his faith, he started to transform Turning Point. And I think, you know, when I was talking to some young men last night about why we're seeing young men saying having kids is the greatest marker of success, I attribute that to Charlie Kirk.
Amen.
That was the Charlie Kirk effect. And I saw a tweet after Charlie was assassinated, and they said, after the board at Turning Point announced that Erica would be taking over as CEO, brilliant decision. And someone said, Charlie Kirk had come for the boys. Erica's coming for the girls. And backstage last night after my speech, I finally got a good amount of time alone with Erica to talk, and that was one of the things we spoke about, because we were talking about 2026, 2028, what we have to do. And in the wake of Charlie's assassination, there's been this, like, Ben Shapiro called it out on the main stage the first night, and I thought it was really poignant. The responsibility of influencers, podcasters, thought leaders. There's a lot of people who want to fill Charlie's shoes. And we've seen this online, and it's been pretty despicable, where you've got people who are saying some outlandish things for the clickbait, for the outrage, because there's a monetization, there's a financial incentive to that. But what Charlie did is he used the influencer culture to influence elections, to get the right people elected, so we could get the right policies enacted to save America. He had a strategic game plan where we have others who, they don't feel that same responsibility.
Right.
And I was so thankful to see Ben kind of call that out. And that's what Erica and I are talking about, because I've seen a lot online of young men, conservative men, saying things, acting in ways. We already have a women problem when it comes to the electorate and the conservative movement.
Yeah.
Going to drive women even further away.
Right.
Even further. I mean, there's a group not too far from our booth here at the AmFest that, they openly call to repeal the 19th Amendment. Okay, that's like 180 million voters. That would take 37 state legislatures to ratify that amendment, okay?
Oh, boy.
Why would you jump to that extreme step of saying, well, all these women voted for Madami, they're voting for socialists, let's take away the right to vote? I don't know. Maybe let's educate GOP elected officials and candidates how to talk to women better and how to make an argument to women about why conservative fiscal and social policies are going to be better for them and their family and their future. It's crazy. And yet we let these people say these crazy things. And I'm like, it's reckless.
It is reckless, Kristan. And I know we're
short
on time. We got to continue this conversation later on. But please, with all the great work you're doing, how can people find you, support you? What do they need to do? What's the action?
Go to studentsforlife.org. You can sign up for our prayer team. If you know a student who can start or join Students for Life, they can email your state name at studentsforlife.org. Find me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I'm Kristan Mercer Hawkins, and give me a follow.
Kristan, thank you so much for being on the Watchmen Brief. God bless you.
Thank you. Pray for me.
We certainly will. We certainly will, ma'am. Guys, we're live at AmFest 2025. This is the Watchmen Brief. We'll be right back.